SCP-HAT Module 2 Hotspots Identification. Module 2 provides a wide range of SCP indicators covering environmental pressures and impacts, as well as key socio-economic indicators to analyze hotspots of unsustainable consumption and production at country and sector level. These results can be used, for example, by researchers and policy advisors to inform priorities regarding the design of SCP policies. After selecting a country of interest, this module allows querying the results from a variety of perspectives, showing how different sectors compare regarding specific indicators, or comparing different countries and regions. Hover over the titles of the different tabs to get more information about the analytical options. Within each tab of Module 2, users can choose between two perspectives, the domestic production perspective and the consumption footprint perspective. The latter quantifies pressures and impacts caused along global supply chains of the goods consumed in a specific country. The video SCP-HAT in a nutshell offers a detailed explanation of the two perspectives. You can find it on the landing page. After choosing a country, the first section labeled Sustainability Trends shows trends of environmental pressures and impacts for the selected country. These can be compared to other environmental categories, countries, or regions. The section Environmental Trends allows for a comparison of environmental pressures and impacts and their subcategories to countries or regions over a period of time. Here, a country's domestic production perspective of environmental pressures and impacts can be compared to the consumption footprint perspective. In the comparative analysis, pressures and impacts in a specific year can be compared to other countries or regions. To analyze sector performance, under the tab Trends by Sector, specific sectors can be selected. To detect sectoral production and consumption hotspots, the Sector Comparison allows to trace which sector contributes most to environmental pressures and impacts from the perspective of both domestic production as well as consumption footprint. The environmental pressures and impacts of sectors can also be compared to their economic performance. This shows, for example, if there are sectors that drive environmental impacts but do not perform well in terms of contribution to output and employment. When looking at the trade balance, we can see if a country is a net importer or a net exporter of environmental pressures and impacts. A net importer imports more than it exports, whereas in the case of a net exporter, exports exceed imports. The selected country, for example, is a net importer of direct and indirect GHG emissions. This means the country is causing more GHG emissions domestically than abroad. The Trade Origins map illustrates where environmental pressures and impacts occurred along the supply chains of goods consumed in the selected country. In contrast, the Trade Destinations map shows to what extent pressures or impacts were caused in the selected country to produce goods consumed elsewhere.